Again.
Huh?
They think you're.
Right. Maybe.
You're all set.
Free time for.
Got it.
Okay, we set to go.
Yeah.
Okay, call the finance meeting to order. First up, need a motion to accept the August 12th minutes.
So moved.
Moved by James Griffith, second by Dave O'Brien, Dana Hogan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay. First up is the treasurer.
Good morning. I hate to jinx things, I intend to be fairly brief today. No, you're not supposed to say that. First page of your report is the sales tax update. The deposit that came in yesterday is up another $289,000, putting it $3.5 million up over the same time last year. Again, I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic that this is what it is. Whether this continues in the next year or not, I can't even venture a guess. I mean, you're going to have some stark changes in the economy, I feel, with people's spending habits, with some of these entitlements start to dry up. But we'll see how that actually impacts people's spending habits. I still remain optimistic that the past 18 months has created some new spending habits in our residents, and maybe instead of going to Walmart on Quaker Ridge, they'll actually just have stuff sent to their house. But if we've created some new habits, we will benefit from that. We won't know that probably for another year. So we'll see how that turns out. Cash balances, of course, are fairly strong. Tax collections aren't too bad right now, and of course the extra $3.5 million in sales tax doesn't hurt either. So while I would normally be nervous, Tuesday you approved the grant for $1.7 million to lay out for school tests for public health. Normally that would scare the heck out of me because that's a pretty big nut up front waiting for reimbursement. Luckily, we're in a place where we can ride that through without much impact on the county. So I'm happy to have that opportunity without having to have a negative cash flow conversation with you all. The budget to actual report, some highlights that I think are of note. The general fund revenues are up a total of $3.1 million. 3.5 of that, of course, is the sales tax. The county clerk revenues are up $306,000. The mortgage tax, the additional mortgage tax, is up $571,000. That's a significant number. Again, what that trend is going to be a year from now, if you know, then God bless you. The jail revenues are up $158,000. We've discussed before that tablet program that he's running over there right now. That's bringing in a significant amount of additional income. I don't know if that's a new norm or if that's a blip. Again, that will be yet to be seen, I think, because I think those tablets came about when they couldn't visit with their families. So I don't know if that program is something that's going to be like a new norm, or if that's one of those things that you can't really count on going forward. Public safety revenues were up $40,000. Public health was up $489,000. Without digging too deep into it this morning, my guess is that they've got a lot of COVID grant money that they've been able to tap into over the first part of the year, and that would be my guess is that state and federal aid is up. The DSS, so when you add all those numbers up together, I said we were only $3.1 million up, and you're like, oh, that's about $5 million. What's going on? Well, we're still 2 months behind on our DSS funds, and they're really doing the best they can. But their revenue is $1,797,000 down over the same time last year. So what's interesting about that is if she was to catch up today. She's on May, and last year we were on July. So if she was to get June and July posted today, that $1.7 million would be added to the 3.1, we'd be $4.8 million up over the same time last year. So that's a significant number. And when you compound that, so, you know that Mr. Campbell and I both like the net cost approach to the county's books. In addition to the revenues being up 3.1 million, the expenses are down $1,041,000. So really the net cost variance is the 4.2 almost swing over this same time last year. Even with the 2% increase on the salaries are down $200,000 over this time last year. So last year, you remember you had that, the additional time and a half COVID pay.
Right.
So even with that worked into last year, the 2.5% of our payroll was about $630,000. So the increase in wages this year is almost a direct offset of what the COVID hazard pay was last year, and we're still down $200,000 on top of that leveling factor. So that was interesting. I did not dig too deep into the weeds to see if it was straight time or overtime. It would be nice to maybe dig one more layer down, because it might be an overtime factor that's driving that number down a little bit. Would be my best guess. The other thing was that the DSS expenses were also down $1.1 million. So while she's 2 months behind in her claim, they're also $1.1 million down in expenses. So when you take the $1.7 million swing in revenues and the $1 million swing in expenses, it's actually a $3 million swing in their net cost. Again, that's significant. So a $3 million swing for DSS and a $3 million swing in sales tax is a $6 million swing in the fund. That's not small potatoes.
Is that expenses through June?
Through July, August 31st.
Okay, great.
So it's August to August.
Yeah.
So as long as their expenses are running on the same schedule, which I don't have any reason to believe that they're not. Their claims are lagging behind, but I have no reason to believe that their expenses are lagging behind. Because they're kind of twice a week they send out checks through my office to the benefit check type of thing. So that structure is pretty routine. Carpool's net cost was up $13,000. County roads net cost was actually down $111, which is, again, it's nice to see, but I didn't dig very deep because it wasn't really something important for today. But just to give you kind of an overall scope as we go into budget season, it was important for me to get to you kind of where we were, and we're going to have a conversation in a few minutes. In addition to that $6 million swing that I just talked about in general fund, we're going to have another $11.8 million conversation. So
In carpool, Al, the vouchers that are already processed for vehicles we haven't received would be out of that too, right?
yeah, and for road machinery, the net cost was down $375,000, but there was $315,000 of cars ordered last year that hasn't been ordered yet this year. So they're almost road machinery is almost a flat year over year. So they're right on track with a normal pace.
Very good.
Whatever normal is. And Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, with all my sales taxes, no way we're gonna guess what's gonna go forward. Those other increases in revenue, any way to estimate what was one-time revenue will go away next year or the year after? Or some new monies that come in and gonna stay with us?
So I can tell you that public health at least is almost guaranteed to go back to some normal level. Because like I said, my without digging into the exact accounts, the only thing that I've seen additional from public health is COVID claims. They at some point will go away, and they'll come back to a new norm. So the 489 in public health, I don't think is a sustainable number. The county clerk revenues, that's going to be up over this time last year. What might be a better exercise is to look at where we are compared to 19. This report is showing you where we were over this time last year, but remember last year wasn't the model year. So it wouldn't be a bad exercise when we go into budget season to see how this compares to 20, and, this might be the perfect year to do a 3-year look back, to give you a better handle on what's real. And with the additional mortgage tax, until the real estate market comes down to whatever the heck is going on, that's, you know, again, go buy me a lottery ticket if you got an answer there, because I can't explain when that would dry up, if it's gonna dry up. I mean, as long as there's limited inventory and an increased need, those prices are gonna stay high. But that's not, I don't feel that that's sustainable, whatever you determine sustainable to be.
And just to mention on the DMV fees, if you guys remember, we took in a certain amount from the state, from the Utica group, because they couldn't handle everything being processed, and at some point that may go away too.
Again, that will
And
eventually.
Stephanie's looking into that to see where we're at with that,
Sure.
so we can maybe gauge where that's going. Bobby?
With that mortgage tax, we use the excess to pay down our college loan, or
We do.
so directly into that?
So all of that additional mortgage tax money goes towards your county contribution and your debt service to the, Ensign building, yes.
Perfect.
And if you take in more mortgage tax than what the debt service is, it goes into reserve, it can be used next year.
Okay.
So in theory, you could eventually run, the whole $2.2 million can actually be, I mean, you could end up funding the whole debt service through mortgage tax if it stays at that
Right.
level. Sure.
That's what it looks like. Okay, thank you.
And that money can also be used for the college, any of the college costs. It's
The
not
local
just
law that
that.
was drafted stayed broad enough that you can use it as long as it's for the college.
So we got a
It doesn't
long
have to
ways,
be-
yeah, we got a long ways to go before it pays for all the college costs, but if it ever got to that,
Right.
we would be in really nice.
The good news is the timing of it came in time to start paying the debt service. So
Yep.
the timing of it doesn't work, Mr. Rankin.
Yep, that hits just right.
Good planning.
I thought it was a pretty good plan. I didn't think it was ever gonna happen, but it is.
Well, while it took longer than you would like it to happen, it happened when it needed to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, Brian,
So, it's interesting enough, in talking to real estate from the Capital District and does real estate up here also, he says they're finding that a lot of the houses being bought are being bought by cash instead of mortgaging, so it'd be interesting to see what is driving the mortgage taxes, and if people decide to reverse course and move back to their previous location, what's gonna happen to the housing market there is gonna sink, and then it can drive the mortgage taxes down.
And I don't know how the refinances work into that, because right now, I can't tell you how many people that I run into that literally have refinanced because the rate was ridiculously low. I mean,
People moving back.
refinancing wasn't even on their radar, but they were like, you know,
yeah, don't do that now.
That's all I have on my regular report, but I'm gonna stay because I don't think we're done with me yet.
You go with the irregular report.
Yeah, we got you set up so that then they can see online.
Oh, over here?
Yeah,
Is that where you'd rather have me?
well, I mean, then the people online can,
Okay.
I mean,
We'd rather you were seen and not heard, yeah.
We can watch.
You can arrange that.
We can watch you play.
That way you've done really good.
No more talking now. Go leave.
Al, the next part of your packet, were you gonna discuss that later?
You're the chairman.
Well, I'd let you go right into that, because I think that
What do you got next? I don't have the agenda.
you have the EFRP stuff. So, I didn't know if you wanted to explain any parts of that, or what?
That's not the guy that says silence your cell phone, is it? It is. Okay.
Sorry, not on it.
It needs to be seen and not heard. Shut that thing off.
As you can remember, for those of you that were here, I came to committee last month and asked for permission and a waiver to engage EFPR Group to, assist us in the calculation of our lost revenue calculation in regards to the American Rescue Plan Act. I had extremely conservative measure of what I thought it was, because, as you know, I'm pretty much a zero risk guy, that's what you pay me to do. And I'm gonna give you the most conservative estimate that I know that you will not be dragged on the carpet for. We went out to our CPA firm, who claims that they have all of the guidance they need and the comfort level that they need to prepare a report for us. We engaged them. The report in its entirety entirety I have attached to my packet. So not only did I give you the 3-page report, but I gave you the, behind the curtains, where the numbers came from sheet. Two significant benefits came to us by engaging this firm for $2,000. The lost revenue calculation came in at $15.6 million, which is considerably higher than what I had projected for you all. And the escalator, where I used the 4.1, because again, that's the safe number, right? They went back because they do our books, they have everything that they need to go back and do a prior year look back as well. They came up with a 5.6% growth factor that affected Washington County. So just the growth factor change from 4.1 to 5.6 was money well spent, in my opinion. I've never been so happy to be wrong in my entire career as I was with the lost revenue calculation. Because as you know, if we're gonna get 11.8 million, if I give you a lost revenue calculation of 5 million, that's considerably different rules on the money that's left over on how you can use it. Now, remember that if you choose as a board to bring the entire 11.8 million back as lost revenue, which you now have the ability to because your lost revenue number is actually greater than your award number, the appropriation of those funds now, they use the words general services. So a lot of the strings that were attached to the American Rescue Plan money, and we're very strict on the uses, there's a much broader spectrum of uses when you bring that money back as lost revenue, where you can't use it as federal match under the ARP legislation. When you bring it back to general fund as lost revenue, it can be reappropriated to leverage other grants. So
Through general services.
If you had $1 million for broadband money under the American Rescue Plan, you could spend $1 million. Now you can take that same $1 million, and if you're, at 100% match, you can leverage that $1 million and make that money do a lot better work for the county, because now you've leveraged that $1 million into something a lot more significant. So, when it comes time to have this conversation with you all, my recommendation is going to be to take the entire rescue plan money and bring it back as lost revenue, and then we can have a discussion about, because I don't think our priorities have changed. The subcommittee issued you a report on what it thought the top 7 priorities were with the American Rescue Plan money. I don't think that the priorities have changed, but I think that it does allow you some different things that you can do. It will definitely, in my opinion, benefit the county as a whole, not just in the immediate, but in the in the long term. You're going to be able, if you choose to, you'll be able to avoid some debt service. You're going to be able to put some direct program monies into your foster care and child care. So I think that the conversation is going to be much more robust if we choose to bring that money back, because you're going to have a lot more that you can do with it that was not available to you under the American Rescue.
It's a good report. Thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to engage them.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really important, and I've heard it a few times, and every time I hear it, I pick up a little more, but I also come to the determination that some people haven't heard it at all, so it was very good.
Brian?
Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
So if we do it this way, the idea of the county helping any broadband effort out the window. We're gonna swallow it. We're gonna swallow it all ourselves.
Note that we have some resolutions in play for today with the first 5.9 million. And if I have my calculations right, the 6 million that we talked about for broadband is going to come down to about 3.4 if you vote yes on everything in front of you today. But the benefit of the 3.4 million, the 6 million was only going to buy you 6 million. The 3.4 million is going to be able to buy you a significantly higher number because it can now be used as match. So on a broadband grant that requires a 20% match, you now can match that with that 3.4 million, where before you would have had to do direct contracts with providers, 100% county funds. This way you can leverage 20% county funds, and you'll make that $3.4 million. If you do it right, you can leverage that 3.4 for much greater than 6.
But you would only do that on the second installment, because the first installment we're getting is already gonna be used up.
Well, by the time all that's in place, Dana, the second installment will be here.
Yeah, I don't think you'll need it, you won't need it before the second installment comes.
But the first installment, we're gonna use internally, and it's the second installment that we might use out the door.
That's probably a fair statement.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sue Clary?
Now, this is kind of a strange question, but because of the lost revenue and the amount of lost revenue that's showing, does that allow you to do almost like a hardship grants? Where it's like an in-kind for different projects? You understand what
That could be tough.
Not sure about that.
Yeah,
that
well,
could be-
it's interesting because if they use that percentage rate to show that that's the norm, right? And we're below the norm because of lost revenue. Isn't that kind of what you're talking about with the broadband? Like using that towards in-kind money?
But it leads towards match money.
Okay, so it leads towards match money for grant funding?
And if you remember right, I think Laura Oswald came, at least to the subgroup, I don't know if she's come to the actual full board yet, but there's a grant application in that if successful, I think there might have been 5 counties involved in that grant. 6
Yes,
counties?
yeah.
So it's a significant, was it 15 billion, Mr. Griffin? Does that sound right?
I'm not.
It was a significant
Yeah.
amount of money,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that was gonna require, our piece of that was gonna be 250,000.
Right.
Others than
Yeah, Laura's
Alpha
popped
Records,
on there now.
she could speak to
Yeah.
it, so.
Al, so just to clarify, so the total ask for the 6 counties was about 20 million. We committed up to a maximum of 250,000. But because we don't have final numbers from providers, some of the providers pitched in match as well. So if the grant is awarded, 250 will be the max, and it's likely to be quite a bit less than that in terms of what we would have to commit to.
And that just re-emphasizes what I was saying. We can now, for $250,000, we're gonna be part of a $20 million grant. That's significant.
Al, in that, does that include, in the contract of that, does that include like that last mile?
Laura's more familiar with the ask.
So the, basically what it is a direct subsidy to several providers to run fiber. Although in a couple of cases, Hudson Valley Wireless participated as well. So a couple of them were that, but yes, it's both middle mile and last mile infrastructure. It's very similar to the way the state broadband program worked, in that the providers bid to get service to specific addresses.
Is there anyone else? Very good. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Al. Okay, so we're accepting payments for school taxes. I assume we're on to the resolutions on that.
One thing that I do want to mention, Chairman, I unfortunately had forgotten that the year is quickly slipping away from me. And normally at this finance meeting, you need to do county numbers. I failed to have those ready for you, but I will email them out to you and the clerk of the board so that you still have them in a timely fashion. Because July 31st or August 31st is the end of the measurement period for you county. And I try to have it as a September finance for you, and I failed to realize that the year is already slipped away from me. But I will get those completed, and it will probably be next week, in all honesty.
Okay, very good. Appreciate that. Since we're all under our town budget.
That's why I try to do it for the,
Yeah.
so you have it, even though it really, it comes on our cap, but it affects your town rate. And I know Mr. Hess loves having that conversation with his taxpayers, when he has a 0% increase and then they come and get a 3% on their bill. and he has to blame the county for it. So I wanna make sure that you have that number so you can have an intelligent conversation with your taxpayers as well.
Very good. Okay, so resolution A is, returning, village taxes. What village are we in? So I need a motion for resolution A, for unpaid village taxes. Moved by Dana Hogan, seconded by Dave O'Brien. Cassie Fedler, any discussion?
Sure.
Mr. Millet?
And just a reminder, I brought this up 3 years in a row, and I'll bring it up a fourth. If there's ever a time that you all wanna have a conversation about this, resolutions A and B, it is a county option, not a county requirement. So when we make schools and villages whole on April 1st, it's because of these resolutions. There is a different way to do it, and if whoever wants to have that conversation, we can have it. What it would take away is it would take that, so when schools and villages turn over on November 1st, we collect for 2 more weeks before we re-levy them on town and county bills. You would in essence end up making the villages and schools their own enforcing officers. So it's a much longer conversation, and something that I would want to speak to Roger about, so that we weren't blindsided about it going into it either. But not for this year, obviously, because the resolutions are in front of you. But if you ever want to have that conversation, I'm more than happy to have it with you on what that would look like if we didn't.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And resolution B is to do the same for the school taxes. Need a motion. Dave O'Brien, seconded by James Griffith. Cassie Fedler, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Now, right down along with the budget amendments for DSS unmet needs, is resolution C. Need a motion. Moved by Dave O'Brien, second by Sue Clary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution D, preparedness grant for public health. Motion for that. Moved by Dave O'Brien, second by Sue Clary. Any discussion? And Cassie Feather, second those. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Resolution E is, child passenger seat safety grant, recognizing the appropriation. Moved by Dave O'Brien, second by Dana Hogan and Sue Clary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution F is to amend the budget for the public health COVID fund. Need a motion, Sue Clary, second Dave O'Brien, and Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution G, budget for immunization action plan funds, also in public health. Motion, Dave O'Brien, second, Sue Clary, James Griffith, Dana Hogan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution H is to amend the title by grade schedule for the senior engineer. Motion by Dave O'Brien, second by Jay Skelly, Cassie Fedler. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution I, authorization approving a settlement to the action relating to the opioid crisis. Need a motion for that. Moved by James Griffith, Dave O'Brien, second. Any more discussion? Sue Clary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution J is to amend the general fund for the American Rescue Plan, and this is what Al alluded to earlier, the $5.9 million. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Chairman, if I just, I want to be careful when we go through these, so there's no confusion. This first one, Resolution J, is literally just because they changed the guidance. When we get the money in, we put it directly into a capital project. The guidance later came in that they want the money received in general fund, and then you can send it out to a capital project. So resolution J is literally just the original receipt of the money, being received at the general and then out to the capital project. So this is just an accounting fix.
The journal entry.
This isn't anything, to do with the earlier conversation.
Okay,
It's literally a bookkeeping exercise.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, so K. This is the one you referred to earlier.
This is the actual thing, yes, we wanna take the first 5.9 million as lost revenue.
Okay, so I have a motion by Dave O'Brien. I have a second. James Griffith, Don Ward, Kathy Fedler. Any discussion here? All in favor, say aye. Oh, Dana Half.
Al, in this, you also are taking $2,000 for the contracted services. But that's $2,000 more than we're getting. Where's that 2,000 coming from? Who's gonna pay it?
The total that we received was 5,944,000. We're gonna take 5,942,000 and give to general, which leaves 2,000 in the capital project. That 2,000 will pay the CPA firm, because you can use our funds to pay for the report that was processed for it. So
Oh, the
$2,000
The original, our first installment that we got was 5,944,000, not 5,942,000.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you.
If you look at resolution J, that should be the 944.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Brian, I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
So when you do the 2022 budget, you're gonna budget the contingency line with another $5.9 million, because when we get the second installment, it's gotta go into contingency. So are you gonna put that in the budget?
I'm hoping that he waits until it comes.
Yeah, yeah. We gotta wait till the money's there.
Okay, so we'll have an amendment in 2022 to recognize that again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, resolution L.
So this is maybe the most important of the ARC conversations that you'll have today. Because to me, the lost revenue conversation was the easy part. This here is now determining how you want to use that first 5.9 million. That's maybe the more important part of the conversation. The recommendation currently that's reflected in this resolution is to take 288,160 and set it aside for the foster care child care program as was presented in the original packet from the subcommittee. That money will just stay in contingency until such time as Tammy and her crew at DSS come back to the Human Services Committee with a plan. I spoke to the commissioner yesterday, and I really encouraged, while I would love to have given her the money today so that she could get it out the door tomorrow, she really valued having time to sit with her staff and really work out how they think this money should be spent. So I commend the commissioner in wanting to put the brakes on a little bit and not just spend it because it's here. She really wants to spend it correctly and get the most bang for her buck. So this will sit in contingency with the understanding that if she doesn't come to you with a plan by the end of the year, we will reappropriate
Roll that
for
over.
her in January. If she does come to you, say she comes to you at the October board meeting with a plan, we'll give her the whole 288. There is a slim to no chance that she will spend the whole 288. And what we'll do is we'll roll that forward like we do with grant funds. So we'll treat her ARC allocation as a grant, as far as the accounting for it goes. And if we give her 288 and she spends 100, we'll put 188, we'll roll 188 into the 2022 budget for her. Kind of like we do with the public health grants and public safety. And so it's a process you're familiar with. I just wanted to kind of be clear about that. It also takes $653,920 of the So the set aside that was recommended was $1 million. We're gonna take 653 of that million and set that aside now in the capital plan. And I've got a capital plan sheet that we can talk about when I get done running my mouth, if you have questions on how that's gonna look. The new thing that's in front of you that has not been talked about before, because this money now has different strings than the original, American Rescue Plan money. As you know, I've not been a secret of mine that I do not like to borrow money. We have 2 barns in play right now that the estimate is around $5 million all in. If we could pay cash for those barns and not borrow, I would be a big fan of that. Resolution is asking you to do that. We'll create a new capital project. It will be for the barn repairs and replacement. It won't be for just these 2. We'll leave that project open so that as we go through whatever the barn structure is going to look like for the county, whether we're gonna have 8, 5, 15, I don't know where we're going with barns, if we're gonna relocate barns from this campus to another campus, whatever this board decides to do with the barns, we'll have a capital project that has the life of that is one place where you could look back at all of them in one location. This would open up a new capital project, and it would fund it with the first $5 million for the Middle Falls and Fort Ann barn programs that look like they might be kicking off as early as next year. So that would be a new ask of you that we haven't talked about yet, so.
And at the same time, that would remove the barns from the capital plan.
It would remove the barns from the capital plan, in theory. It would remove it from the capital plan, capital project.
Right.
You'll still see it on a 5-year capital plan.
Right.
There's still a capital need of the county. But you'll still see that on the capital plan. And the one sheeter that I gave you today kind of reflects that. It's on the capital plan. And you'll see a different capital project number listed. For those of you that are in the room, I've actually got a colored sheet because there's been a change in function and I've taken over the 5-year capital plan. So I had to allocate the sheet for you before I handed it out. So that's why it's different than what you're used to. Those of you at home are looking at a black and white sheet and it can't really get the full bang for the buck. But the boxes up above are actually color coded to the boxes down below. So there's a relationship. The green boxes match to the green boxes, the gold boxes match to the gold boxes, and so forth. So the new ask in this resolution that wasn't part of the original recommendation of the subcommittee would be the utilization of $5 million for the barn rather than borrowing the money. So that's kind of a lot very quickly, but I'm open to questions if you have any.
Is there any questions on that?
Brian, I have a question.
Okay, Laura.
Al, I haven't seen if we have an estimate on the cost of the barns, but was the 5 million estimated as the total cost? And have we considered what grant funding we could apply for to add to that project? Or is 5 million just a set aside for right now?
5 million is the anticipated county need without any grant funding.
So that could potentially be offset if we could find grant funding for it then.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Not only that, it could give us the money to do future barns.
Well, she'd like us to restore some of her $6 million in broadband.
I understand.
Who, me?
Okay, motion to move this resolution. Moved by James Griffith, and second by Don Ward, Jay Skelly and Cassie Feather. Is there any more discussion? 8.5.
Al, at the budget impact statement on the bottom talks about 288,160. So if I do all the math and I subtract out your first tranche of 5,944,000 from this, you end up with 290,000, which is $2,000 more than your 288,160. Is that 2,000? What the previous resolution was, where we paid for that auditor? Is that where that's where the missing 2,000 goes?
Yep.
Okay. In a while, I want to come back to K. I'm still confused by K. I don't know if you want to do it now, Brian, or wait at the end.
Okay, well, this is the end, let's just vote on this one and then we'll go there.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, back to K. Go ahead, Dan.
Al, in K, you say that our first tranche was 5,944,000. So in the general fund, increase the appropriation under contingency. Shouldn't that be 5,944, not 5,942?
No, because we have to set aside $2,000 for the audit center.
But don't you have to get it first, then set it aside? Don't you have to get it in contingency, the full 5,944, then?
No, because we're not gonna pay it out of general, we're gonna pay it out of the capital project where it sits.
I thought you had to bring all, I thought you had to bring all of it to general.
So we brought it all to general and then sent it all out to the project.
Well, it looks
So
like you
really,
only brought, well, it looks like you only brought 5,942 into general.
No,
If you flip back to J,
J, right. Capital project number 127.
yeah, so if you flip back to J, you'll see capital project number 127 is for the full 5,944.
It's really capital project 129, right?
No, 127.
But look at the increase in revenue, it's H129.
Oh, there's a typo in the resolution, it looks like.
Yeah.
The title says 127 and then he counts as 129.
Right.
And it's in two resolutions like that, so is it 129 or 127? What's correct?
Good catch, Dana.
That's a great catch.
I believe it's 129, but I'll verify that.
So bold doesn't matter.
When it gets mailed out tomorrow, it'll be correct.
And there's another resolution, that's also in another resolution like that.
Yeah, both J and K.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
catch.
all right, I'm still confused, but that's okay. It's like following the bouncing ball. And Al, is this how it happens? We got the first tranche of money, 5,944.
Yep.
You put that into capital project 129. Then we were told that then has to be transferred into the general fund. So we transferred 5,944 from capital 129 into the general fund. And then we put it in contingency within the general fund. Now we are taking it from the contingency in general fund, and then we're dispersing it out to various, lines because of our lost revenue that can now all be general services. So the bouncing ball went from the feds into capital project 129, then it went into the general fund contingency, and then it's bouncing out into smaller balls into other places.
So I think the reason that there's some confusion is that J is strictly just a bookkeeping entry. So if we had the guidance in time, what would have happened is the money would have gone from the Fed to general and from general to the project.
Right.
But we went directly to the project from the Fed. So this is a oops.
Undo it.
So this runs it back through general to the project.
I did the same thing in my town, I think.
So the money will never move. The money will stay in the project where it is currently. This is literally going to show the Fed that it went through general to the project. Then we said, okay, the money went from the Fed to general, from general to the project. We're going to now take the lost revenue piece of the project and send that back to general.
Originally, didn't we think that money went from the feds into the capital project, and then as we spent it, we could then incrementally bring it into general?
Yes.
But that's wrong, because that's
No, that's still accurate. The only place that we have a correction is the original receipt of the money. Everything after that is exactly the same as we discussed.
all right,
So
'cause
when the original money came in, it should have been deposited into general and then moved out to the project. We went directly to the project.
okay, I think in my town I did it wrong because it went from the feds. I created an I-class account, put it there, and then I was going to disperse it out of that, make budget amendments, and bring it into general when I did that. That's wrong.
So it's okay that you put it in an I-class account, as long as you put the receipt in your general fund.
Yeah. Your night class is probably on your general side anyway.
The A4997, I think, is the account number. As long as you record the deposit in your general fund, everything after that is easy.
I don't think I did, but okay, thank you.
Yep. And we can talk offline if you need to.
Sue Clary?
And with the working committee and what they did, was there any trade-off, Al, for other, things that they had decided on, like the tourism, broadband and the foster care? It sounds like they're still being considered, or is this a trade-off to go into the capital plan?
So if my math is right, the trade-off was broadband going from 6 million to 3.4.
Okay, thank you.
But again, my hope is that the 3.4 will actually buy more than 6 million. That's the risk that I'm willing to take at this point.
It's still fully funding the water and sewer, fully funding the foster care.
Everything else is exactly as it was presented.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that will come out of tranche 2,
And because that's coming in,
July.
it's coming in next year, we can revenue the budget for anything that will be in next year's budget. In other words, and then for successive budgets after that, if it's over a 3-year plan or whatever.
So like tourism is a good example.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till July to put the $200,000 in tourism.
Right.
So it would be wise to budget that in a timely manner.
So we'll just show the amount of revenue that they're gonna get coming in from the AR.
But I would be cautious in budgeting the whole 5.
Right, we're just gonna budget what significantly has to be in the budget for now.
Sure.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, we're trying.
Another, Brian, is there gonna be another lost revenue calculation from whenever the first one ends? Is that gonna continue on?
Because this took
Covered it all.
our entire award, there won't be another calculation.
So you won't be able to get another bite out of the second apple, the second tranche?
We've only got one apple.
The second tranche is already taken care of, Dana.
We'll be taking the whole second tranche.
But our lost revenue is more than we're getting, so I don't know if you're gonna try to take more lost revenue in the second tranche.
We're taking the whole second tranche.
The first and second tranche are both out of this lost revenue. That tranche will automatically go to general fund and be dispersed wherever it's going.
Okay,
The second tranche will also come back to general fund.
In fact,
You're gonna spend it a little differently.
I'm just dying to hear what Hartford's number is when they get it back to see how Hebron might be coming out.
I think he has an idea.
well, my idea might be 1/3. Al, wasn't your first idea 1/3 what you actually got?
Yeah.
So maybe I get $3 instead of $1.
To follow up on David's question, from a town standpoint, got $500,000 ARPA funds, and our lost revenue calculation at this point is 100, we can take that 100. Will there be a chance, because it did take up all of it, to do another loss calculation after the end of 21?
Absolutely.
So the towns really have flexibility going forward, they can take more than this one-time shot, the county can't, because they've exceeded.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
I
here's,
just want to clarify this, that's where I thought Dana was going.
okay, so can I want
The answer for the town is different, because if your lost revenue is less than your award, you've still got 3 more years
To calculate your lost
so
revenue.
you can calculate.
With the growth factor.
With the growth rate.
So here's my question to that. Are the ARPA funds you receive in the first tranche offset that revenue?
No, because they're federal aid.
They're federal aid, but it's revenue.
Nope.
It's not considered revenue.
Lost revenue calculation does not include federal aid.
Okay. That's what we needed to know. I mean, that's important.
Federal aid is not included in your lost revenue calculation.
So we may end up spending 2,000 twice
Right,
at the town
Maybe
hall.
the best 2,000.
right.
Right. That was very interesting.
So Dana, whatever you could move forward and continue to get more lost revenue calculations going forward, even if your budget's flat and there is no lost revenue because of the growth factor, right?
Right.
If your award was 200,000 and your first year's lost revenue was 50, I'd encourage you to do it again.
Yeah.
Because on $1 million budget, 40,000 just in the growth factor alone.
Absolutely.
That's good information.
Again, and what it does is it frees up the uses. be unrestricted.
That's a lot better than the word we used before.
You used it.
But I was accurate.
Free, appropriate, and unrestricted.
Okay. Moving on, other business. And we know you have
I
some
have other
wonderful
business.
news for us.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's not really wonderful.
No, it's not.
I do have the retiree health insurance, renewal. This is for Humana. The contract, was just given to me. So what I would like is a resolution for the chairman to or authorization for the chairman to sign the contract so I can get that back to the health insurance broker, as soon as possible. If everyone remembers, last year, there was a significant decrease, excuse me, to the premium amount that the retirees paid. And this is because of a decrease of claims, that occurred or didn't occur during COVID. So this year, there is going to be an increase, and you might hear from some of the retirees regarding that if they forgot that they had a significant decrease last year. So I would like to, I guess, have authorization for the chairman to sign this contract so that I can return it to Jager and Flynn.
Okay, I need a motion. Dave O'Brien, is there a second? Clary, any discussion?
A year ago, I said I reserved the right to say told you so, so I told you so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Noted.
Carried.
I think everyone had the same thought, Al.
Yeah. Okay, was that it?
That's all I have.
Any questions from the board? Alex?
At some point, because we did so much here today, and I know you've got budget hearing coming up, that's gonna be, but at some point, give us a tutorial on, the capital plan.
Yep.
So we can discuss that. I think it's too fresh right now,
It is.
but between now and the end of the year, so Matt Jones can say, yeah, we've done this, done this, done this, and this, the money here is for this and this, you earmark this. This way you can call it, okay, I get it, I understand.
So we know what the money's
Somebody
applying
can say,
to
you know
do.
what, I think that's more of a priority than this, that kind of stuff, but I think it's too much right now.
And maybe even if Mr. O'Brien, doesn't mind, at some point it's government ops, we probably could run through
That'd be
at
great.
least the 10,000 foot, where we
Have
are.
you got for the budget done?
Sure. And if you have specific questions about today's handout, I'm more than happy, either during the meeting or maybe after, to talk about today's sheet. It looks very different than anything you had before, even though it's exactly the same information. It just looks different. And I took the opportunity to put the capital plan and the capital project on one sheet. Supervisor Federer won't like it because the print is small. But it's one sheet to give you the complete overview, and hopefully that's beneficial.
Dana? Can't hear you, Dana.
You're muted, Dana.
Since there's so much money coming into the contingency fund and it's being commingled with other contingency money that was already there, can we create like a contingency 0.2? Another contingency fund that just has this ARPA money?
Well, it's going in and going out in the same day. It's not gonna be,
Right. It's not commingled.
it's not commingled. It's literally the only money that's gonna be left over is the 288.
But we're gonna get a second tranche. I'm easily confused, and when we can put it in with the contingency that was budgeted for with a different amount of money, and then we take money out of contingency, but not that money, it just seems to me like.
Right, no, you've got a good point, Dana, but I think as the second tranche comes in, we will probably we'll reappropriate where it's going, so it isn't commingled, and we'll know instantaneous. That's the hope anyway.
So if I have my way, when the second tranche comes, it won't stay in contingency. It'll go out to a capital project and wait for further direction.
Does it have to go to contingency first?
Yes.
Okay.
The holding stuff.
But it would literally be in and out the same day.
As long as you keep it straight.
I noticed you didn't say as long as I keep you straight.
Very good. Anything else? We good? Till the next time, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.